Get with it. Ah!
All right, we're live on YouTube. Hello, everybody on YouTube. And here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Captain's Quarters, the unofficial Star Trek rewatch podcast where Gabe and Jason are watching the entire Star Trek franchise, starting at the beginning of the official Star Trek timeline. Today, we're talking about Star Trek Discovery. I'm Gabe, and my co-captain Jason is here, and such phasers for fun. Set a course for season 2, episode 7, Light and Shadows. How's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you? I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry for the
Good.
rough
It's
start there.
always good to be in the captain's quarters.
This heat is making me crazier than normal.
I understand. Happy solstice to
So
you and everybody out there. First day of summer.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
What usually so real quick, since it is solstice, what's the thing that usually reminds you of summer?
Oh, well, I'm in Arizona, so um, you know, avoiding the outside at all costs for months on end.
So
That's
for
a
those of you
that's
don't
a
for those of you who don't
yeah.
know, this is like another season where Gabe has to stay indoors. So like it goes up and it comes down, right? It's kind of
Exactly.
cyclical, like a when spring training is in Arizona, like during January to what is it, March, you know,
hmm Yeah,
all the snowbirds come down and all the tours come down for baseball and all that kind of stuff.
right.
And then there's a little respite, and then he has to, now it's too hot.
Yep. Yeah, that we get our version of cabin fever here because especially during COVID, when we were all avoiding indoor activities, you were stuck in your house. You can't go outside. The best you could do if you have a kid is go to like a splash pad. So it was brutal. Now there's more options. Now we can go to the movies, go to a restaurant, whatever. But
Yeah,
you definitely feel it because it's not 2 or 3 months, it's 4 or 5 months of extreme heat. So
right. And how do you
yeah.
feel when people say, "Oh, it's dry heat," though?
Yeah, if they're saying that from a humid place, I gotta give it to them, man. I went to Austin in the summer and the humidity was suffocating.
Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't handle it. Um, w-
Yeah.
yeah, we stayed downtown and we were just walking around to restaurants and stuff. And like we had to like keep going inside of businesses because it felt
Yeah.
like it was going to overtake us. So
Totally.
humidity people have it. They're right. I would take 120 over 90 degrees with 70% humidity or whatever any day of the week. So yeah, it definitely it just wears you the humidity just wears you down more.
Yeah, totally.
So whereas I feel like the our sun you can put a big hat on and I mean it's still gonna suck, but you just feel like you can last longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into it, buddy.
Yes.
Here's my synopsis via memoryalphafandom.com. Burnham goes to Vulcan in search of Spock, where she unearths surprising family secrets. In researching what is left of the Red Angel signal over Kaminar, Pike and Tyler end up in a battle with time itself. Giorgio has a few tricks up her sleeve for Leland and Section 31. So, as has been the arc of this season, still searching for Spock. As we know, he had some sort of mental breakdown. He's accused of murdering some people at the facility he was at. He's been on the run. His disappearance has been associated with these mysterious red angel bright spots across the galaxy, which Discovery has been researching. One of them brought them to Kaminar last episode, so they're still there. There's this temporal anomaly above Kaminar, and they're trying to learn more about it. Discovery is. And Pike and Tyler get on a shuttle to launch a probe into the anomaly. They end up getting sucked into the rift, and most of this episode on that story is very very actiony sci-fi, them trying to get out of the rift using whatever they can to like figure out how to do it, because as they're sucked in, basically it's the equivalent of like an event horizon where time is non-linear, so the present, past, and future are all one. And so from an outside observer, it's like impossible to locate them. So Discovery can't just like beam them up. And Pike has the idea to release some plasma. At one point, the probe that they had released gets sent back, apparently had gone into the future and then comes back, but it's modified. And it ends up attacking their little shuttle pod. And they have to fight the like robotic arms of this modified probe. And I want to ask your opinion about that in a second. Um, they win the fight. Stamets, who is the key between Discovery and the mycelial network, has tardigrade DNA, and he's immune to the temporal distortion. So Stamets, when he's like analyzing the field measurements of the anomaly, he's able to decipher where they're at. So he's actually able to transport to the shuttle, does some modifications so that Discovery can find them, and then they are able to beam them back. So the other half of this episode is Burnham searching for Spock. She says she's taking personal leave. Pike knows what she's up to, but Section 31 doesn't. So she goes to Vulcan, meets up with her mother, pretty quickly deciphers that her mom is hiding Spock. And so turns out that she was hiding Spock in this cave with Katra stones, and the Katra stones were shielding Spock from detection. And so Sarek didn't even know that this was happening. And so he then discovers it because Burnham discovers it. Spock is there. Spock is speaking in tongues. He's like reciting over and over the Vulcan code of logic or whatever it was called. And Sarah, the mom doesn't want Spock to leave because he'll get tried for murder. Sarah convinces them it's the right thing to do. Burnham is going to be court-martialed, etc. So Burnham actually does take him to Section 31, thinking that Section 31 isn't necessarily wanting to prosecute Spock for murder. They want his knowledge of the Red Angels so that they can deal with it. So they're going to put this contraption on Spock, and they do. But then Philippa tells Burnham in secret, hey, just so you know, this thing they put on him is going to like scramble his brains and he'll never be the same. So they stage like
Jailbreak.
Burnham a jailbreak. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Burnham breaks him out of Section 31, hops in a shuttle and takes off. one of the things that Spock was mumbling when he was speaking tongues was this number sequence. Burnham figures out that it was in reverse, it was mirrored. So once she puts that in, it turns out it's coordinates and they're going to a planet. And that's the cliffhanger is them going to the coordinates. And that was pretty much it. And I definitely have some questions because I'm ashamed to say I watched this twice and
Oh,
I missed two things, maybe more
okay.
than that.
Okay.
What when did the anomaly appear over Kaminar?
The last episode. Yeah, the last episode. In Sons and oh boy, the
Wasn't
Sounds
it
of
Sounds of Thunder?
Thunder. Yes, Sounds of Thunder.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's what drew Discovery. One, it drew Discovery to Kaminar in the first place, and then that's what essentially saved Saru from certain. That's so. That's the thing that we were talking. Um that was the point where you and I where you liked it and I didn't love that it was you know that it was the Red Angel that came to save Saru, Commander Saru. So that's when last
So
episode.
it coincided with the arrival of the Red Angel.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I missed that when we were talking about it. I didn't realize that it left something there.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Okay, but it's not what drew them there initially.
I'm not entirely certain if that was clear though from the last episode. It's
Okay.
just it was a continuation to this episode.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay, and then what was the mirror thing they were talking about with Spock where that's the code that Burnham cracked as far as why she knew to reverse the letters. Like, well, how did she know that the letters would be mirrored or
Uh
the numbers would be mirrored?
yeah. So um it was
If you don't know, it's okay
no
because they were talking about reading Alice in Wonderland.
yeah. And um it was a quote, I think, that was from Alice in Wonderland that kind of gave
Okay,
her yeah. I think it was the quote in Alice in Wonderland where she finally has this realization that uh 841947 is backwards.
okay, all right. So it was from Alice in Wonderland. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so.
so okay, a lot of Vulcan shots. I don't. We haven't seen Vulcan in this series yet. There was
Yeah,
some cool aspects of it. Like we saw Vulcan in Enterprise.
yeah,
Uh, it didn't come across as hot in this episode as it did in Enterprise, but still deserty canyons. And one thing that was interesting about Sarek's home, I think when she pulled up, it was raining.
yeah, and it had
Um,
greenery.
yeah, it had like sakura trees around it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was the first that we've ever seen, like the suburb.
yeah, very nice house.
Yeah, and then like that it's green. It's usually, as you were saying, as you were describing it, deserty and dry and all that stuff.
Right. So that was kind of cool. And, the mention of the Katra stones, that was interesting. From Enterprise, I believe the Katra is the spirit of, or it's like the essence of a Vulcan that can be like can be transported from one person to another. So like at one point, um, oh my gosh, yeah, the captain of Enterprise inhabits
Archer,
the, what was it?
Archer,
Thank you,
Jonathan
Captain
Archer.
Archer, Jonathan Archer. Captain Jonathan Archer inhabits the Katra of Sirach.
Yeah,
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 and then also like in that story arc from Enterprise, there was this obelisk stone thing, and
yeah,
then in this show, these Katra stones were triangular. So
yeah,
I got to think there was a connection there.
yeah. So one of the stones looked like the Kirshara to me. Not clear, but could be.
Okay, remind me what the Kirshara is,
Oh boy, you really.
because I
uh,
know I know Mount Saleya is the triangle of the Idic symbol, right? Is that
yeah,
correct?
hmm.
And I thought there was a connection there between the obelisk shape and Mount Saleya. Like they're both kind of pyramids, but could be wrong there.
Yeah, yeah. So basically the Kirshara, again referencing that episode, had the writings of
Right. I
the
remember
rock
that.
on it.
So
Don't
yeah,
know if that's the one, but you know,
and it basically ushered in a new era of Vulcan understanding of logic and their
yeah,
way of life, basically.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you keep mentioning Search for Spock, and it's interesting because one, they found the shuttle carrying Giorgio in the Mutara sector, which is where the Mutara sector, like later on in Star Trek, Star Trek Two, the Wrath of Khan, and then Star Trek Three, the Search for Spock. Um, that's where he ends up. That sector plays a really important role in his life later on. Not going to give anything away, but yeah,
Interesting. Cool. And when they found Philippa there, Spock was nowhere to be found, right?
yeah,
She
yeah, yeah.
just had commandeered his shuttle or
He had,
something,
yeah,
and then
exactly, yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Uh, yeah, so this episode, the few Vulcan things are pretty cool. There was one more Vulcan. There was a thing that Spock and Burnham would do when they were kids, when they would do the Vulcan hand sign, but they would
Hmm.
hold them together. And I wanted to ask you, were they mind melding when they were doing that?
I'm not clear on that. It made it seem like that they were,
Hmm.
but I'm not. Yeah. I mean, there were inferences in the episode to me that they were, but her being human, um, and Spock not, I guess, not developing, being able, I don't think that ability, um, he had fully developed that ability yet. So, but it did make it was either pretty close to it or just like this closeness between the two.
Got it. That was a Vulcan, half Vulcan way of connecting with someone
Yeah,
that they love,
yeah,
whatever love is to Vulcans.
yeah.
Not
And
necessarily
speaking,
some magic ritual or something.
yeah, and speaking of that, I did want to say how poignant that scene between Sarek and Amanda,
Amanda, yeah,
yeah, uh, um, was in this episode. I thought that was
yeah,
really cool to see husband and wife have a discussion like that. That was, yeah,
yeah. She was protecting her son because that's the motherly thing to do is protect your son.
yeah,
But
absolutely,
Sarek is doing the logical thing, following his duty, encouraging Burnham to do her duty, and that that taking precedence over love your kids. But then also, you got to hand it to Sarek because he was worried for Burnham's fate of being complacent in this.
yeah,
And so if she doesn't perform her duty, then she also goes down. And he
yeah,
says, I don't want to lose both my children in one day. And on many
exactly,
levels, that was poignant because one, he thinks of Burnham as his child, which we knew, but that's something that she struggled with was, wanting that father figure, wanting like the love of the parents.
yeah,
But then also he was like expressing his love for her, and and he even said, like, when he said it, he sounded emotional.
yeah, absolutely, no, absolutely,
But at the same time it was still very logical. So
yes, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
yep, exactly,
agreed. That was definitely probably the best scene.
yeah,
So um Tilly was pretty great in this episode.
yeah,
Tilly had some good lines. She's comic relief. She's always good, but she played a big part in this. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like there wasn't too much to talk about.
yeah,
There was one more Vulcan lore building, world building thing that I didn't write down. It had something to do with like the Vulcan culture. If you remember it, maybe you'll bring it
okay,
up. But
so I think, okay, so I'm gonna say what Jason of the past, I think is wrong. So
oh,
Amanda, I do remember this now. Okay. Amanda reveals that Spock had suffered as a child Latak Tarai.
mm,
And we don't know what Latak Tarai was, as she
okay,
explained. But she feels, and this is why, man, I think her name's Mia Kirshner. And I love her in this role as Amanda because she is very incredibly protective mother, a fantastic, fantastic actor protecting her child, and we don't know what it is, but we find out later that Leland knows and kind of explains to Burnham Latak Tarai is a form of dyslexia that's not common in Vulcans. And so that's where I that's where Burnham puts together that the numbers that he is saying is backwards. So I think there's like a little dyslexia kind of,
interesting. Okay,
you know, play to it,
yeah,
not the Alice in
okay.
Wonderland. So Jason of like, 8 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, whenever he said Alice in Wonderland, no, wrong, 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 wrong.
Well done, man. That makes sense. And so one of the things that drew Amanda to Alice in Wonderland is it's basically a book about chaos. And that was important to him because of his condition created like a chaotic way of thinking. And
Yeah.
so the book was a way for like a safe place for him because
Yeah.
it he connected with the structure of it.
And then the
Yeah,
other thing too is, and the deeper aspect of it is that there's guilt there, right? That this is because he's part human, and that comes from her. That he is suffering from Latak Tarai, and because of that, and because he's half human, Vulcan, they're somewhat, no, let's call it xenophobia. Like they, as a child, there were no resources for him, and he was isolated as a child, and therefore, there's a lot of this guilt, and then this protectiveness of, from mother to son. So, which is awesome. It's awesome. Loved it.
for sure. Yeah. Hmm. Very well said. Nicely done. So the thing I was thinking of was Tokmar.
Oh yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so when Burnham arrives at the residence, Sarek is meditating, and Amanda explains that he's practicing Tokmar,
Yeah.
which Burnham says that it's the ancient Vulcan practice of conjuring lost spirits, but really like, but not like actual spirits. It's getting people who are lost to come back, basically.
Right.
So he's basically meditating to try to manifest Spock coming back, and he's been in that state for like days on end, uh, just just completely shut off meditating. So that was the world building thing I was thinking
Yeah.
of.
And then we know why, from what you were, you know, that describing, that Amanda had hidden him in the temple.
Yeah. Yep. So always like learning about the Vulcan stuff and the way it connects to the larger Star Trek lore.
Yeah.
And
And
I
what'd you
like that
think
it's
of
consistent.
oh, what'd you
Go
think of
ahead.
changing gears here a little bit? What'd you think of
Yeah.
Tyler and Pike? That was,
Yeah.
there was a little bit of tension there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, as we said, Burnham kind of yearns for that father thing. I feel like Pike has kind of filled that role for her. So it did kind of feel like Tyler trying to get the approval of the prospective father-in-law in a weird way. I felt like both they were both protecting Burnham type thing, and or they both felt like they had the role of like protector of Burnham, I guess.
Yeah. And then did you think
And
that he was
yeah,
shooting at Tyler because
yeah,
Vulcan?
I did for sure.
Okay, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, they
for sure.
left a lot of that, like they left that, that he was actually being grabbed by the probe's Dr. Octopus arm.
See, it reminded me of the Matrix. This like the like Sentinels, I forget what they're called from the
Oh,
Matrix.
right, right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, so that's what I want to ask you.
Yeah,
So last week you brought up the Cube guys, the
cute
Borg?
guys. The Borg. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think we're looking at the Borg?
I That did cross my mind.
Hmm.
Um, but the other thing that crossed my mind too, was a because they launched a probe. The other thing that crossed into my mind was the a kind of a reference to um, Star Trek, the motion picture, where Earth, NASA sends out a probe called Voyager, which they have, right? and its mission is to gather all this information, collect data, and transmit it back to Earth,
Hmm.
right? And on its journey into deep space, Voyager 6, 7, I forget, is taken by this planet of robots. Um, and they take it literally and repair it and like make it better and improve it and all that kind of stuff to collect data and to transmit back to Earth. So that was the other thing that entered my mind because we've never seen Borg tentacles like that, like the Sentinel kind of arms, the Doctor Octopus kind of arms. I was like, oh, maybe, and then maybe it just is a random another alien species that, again, from the future or the past or whenever, you know, captured it, retrieved it, and, you know, um, was trying to do something with it. And I don't think that story is over, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So because when Commander, Lieutenant Amar, our
Yeah, the
droid
droid lady. Yeah,
lady,
cyborg lady. Yeah,
yeah, cyborg, as she's going through those files, it has an effect on her.
yeah. No, we think
So
she's a sleeper agent now, right?
yeah, could be. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see where they go with that. Actually, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. It's like
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. Red Sparrow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was part of the cliffhanger. So now we don't trust Arium. Uh, yeah, so okay. You don't think it's the Borg?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It could be. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, what did you think of this episode?
Thought it was a good episode. I thought it was a really good episode. I'm curious to seeing where they go because as longtime Star Trek fans know where they're going, the planet that Burnham and Spock are going to, it messes with canon if they
Talos 4,
yeah,
right?
Talos 4. Yep. So Talos 4 is the planet in which the pilot episode of Star Trek the original series takes place.
Okay.
And at that point, it had been uncharted. Or, yeah, uncharted, not meaning that there hadn't been visitors before that, but a young Mr. Spock, you know, again. So I'm curious at how they're going to, you know, if we're gonna meet the oh, I'm just gonna come up with it. If we're gonna meet the Telosians in the next episode or in a future episode, and
Yeah.
they wipe his mind or whatever the case might be, because it does mess with canon a little bit if they do go and visit the Telosians on Talos 4.
He's also, though, not technically conscious.
Yes, he is also technically not conscious. It's true. He is in that, mind,
Fugue state.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So he could be there and he wouldn't remember it because
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
he's
I mean, his mind could be needing rebooted. And yeah. So, what
and
do
then
you think of this episode?
they're going in there in a shuttle. The shuttle wouldn't automatically map it as I
It's
assume
totally
Discovery
true.
would.
Totally true. Totally true. It's
But
just an
it is one of those
interesting
things like
point to make.
why even tempt it, you know? Like
Right,
Like, why do
exactly.
shows do that?
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's the same thing with like the Klingons. Now you have to go back and like explain that now when you could have made an entirely different choice
Yeah,
and just said, okay, yeah, Klingons are gonna, we're just gonna take it and they're gonna look like, whatever. Like from the
it's
original.
like in it's like in Kenobi in episode 4, Princess Leia says, General Kenobi, years ago you helped my father, blah 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 blah. But then in the show,
Yeah,
her and Obi-Wan go on an adventure.
yeah,
So it's just a weird thing that that things do that these creators do to toy with canon.
right.
They
And
really they
I
really kind
mean,
of
did you? I think we had this discussion, but
yeah,
remind
we did.
by you must not say anything because it will ruin it. It could jeopardize both of our futures. Like, really? Again, was that necessary to make?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we can talk Star Wars because there's another one of those, which I won't spoil for you because you haven't seen episode 4
I have not
of
seen it.
Acolyte.
Yeah, I have not seen it.
But before I move do that, so I would give this episode of Star Trek, I'd give it a solid B, 84%,
Yeah,
83%. It was a good episode. I love this show. It does all the things that I expect out of Star Trek, but it does it with like such a level of suspense, and the pacing is just sometimes the pace is wild when
yeah.
they're like frantically trying to solve something, and the stuff they're throwing out as far as the physics and the math
Yeah,
and then how they reach a conclusion. But then as soon as they reach with it, I mean, like Stamets and Tilly are literally running for the transporter
yeah,
5 seconds after solving the most complicated math thing you could imagine,
yeah,
So even though it's all sci-fi and it's not real, it has a feeling of authenticity that I love.
yeah.
So I love this show. But even that being said, just again, I grade on a curve, and so
Yeah.
a good episode doesn't necessarily mean automatic A.
Right, right. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. So how about you? How many pips would you give this one?
I'm giving this a Lieutenant Commander three, two and a half, like two and a half, like 2 pips, and then the darkened third pip, not quite Commander episode. So I think pretty close to where you are. A good episode, really, really good episode. Just couple of decisions, some we talked about it, poignant moments. Sarek and Amanda, Tilly and Stamets, cats and dogs. You know, uh, Pike and Tyler.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
small Ghostbusters reference there.
love it. Cats and dogs getting married to each other. Is that what he says?
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Um, okay. All right.
So
Well,
Star
anything?
Wars.
Yeah. Anything else to Star Trek?
No, we
Yeah,
we've
we're
covered
good.
it.
Okay. So yeah, as I said, Jason has not seen episode 4 of The Acolyte, but I have, and I was telling him stuff happens. There's like 3 big things, not earth-shattering things, but just 3 things that are worthy of talking about. But
Okay.
I don't feel like we answered any questions that we would have had from the first 3 episodes.
Oh,
And
okay.
so the questions of what was the Jedi's role in the death of the Coven, or who is the quote unquote Sith Lord? What is their identity?
Yeah.
What is the nature of Osha and May? Because there's something going on with this show. There's mysteries that are there. You're pretty sure they're mysteries. Like literally there could not be twins. May and Osha could be the same person, and we're seeing like a force projection or different time frames.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Um,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, like we could be seeing things out of order. And then I think there's literally one shot where adult May and adult Osha see each other. They look at each other and then May speeds off. And that could be just Osha's mind is it could be like a Fight Club situation, like with Tyler Durden, where it's like a
Sure.
hallucination.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is likely,
I was
but
like, are you making a Fight Club reference?
yeah, I'm not saying it's likely, but the fact is we've never seen the two adults standing next to each other,
Right.
May and Osha.
Right.
And so and it's there's just something very weird about how the story has unraveled and the way it's shot. And I feel like there's something there. There's going to be some big reveal. It might end up being um something pretty insignificant. I don't know. But like even like okay, their hair covers the forehead, and so you can't see the mark. And it's that's another thing where it's like
Yeah.
is that just the actor's hairstyle, or is it an intentional choice to obscure the mark so that we don't know who we're looking at? You know what
Sure.
I mean? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's stuff like that.
Interesting. So I haven't seen the episode, but I have heard that we do get a couple of Jedi Masters from
Yeah.
the prequels.
Yes.
Okay. That's all. I mean, I try to avoid the spoilers and the
Hmm.
social medias and stuff, but
Yeah.
when I
Yeah,
look
that
at my
was
phone because when I look at Star Wars
yeah.
stuff or all this other
Yeah.
stuff, it comes up. So I was like, ah.
Yeah, that would be one of the three things.
Oh, okay.
That one in particular is what everyone is a flutter about this week. Last week they were complaining about the song of the coven. This week they're talking about that and how they believe it breaks canon,
Yeah,
which very technically it doesn't. Um, especially so that leads to the next question is who do you think Chimere? Do you think Chimere is the Sith Lord, or who do you think the Sith Lord is?
I mean, I mean, whether or not whether or not Chimera is a Sith Lord.
Or do you think he's the man in the mask?
So I think my gut, my hope is that there isn't a Sith Lord because
The
you
Sith have
know,
been extinct for over a millennia.
yeah, exact.
Yeah.
Thank you, and not like that they weren't hiding in the shadows. It would just kind of mess with what has already been said, and like unless again, here's your, you know, Chimere is like Plagueis, like a young Plagueis or a middle-aged Plagueis or whatever you want to call it, really, behind the Sith mask thing that kept Palpatine from revealing his true um, form.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, uh, I, again, and this may surprise you, but it would be it would be more interesting if it played more like the sequels where Kylo Ren isn't a Sith Lord, or neither is Andy Serkis. Oh god,
Snoke.
Snoke. Thank you. Pickles. Um, where they're not technically Sith Lords, they're just like
dark force
dark
users or
dark side
fallen
users,
Jedi.
dark force are users or whatever. So I
Yeah.
think it would be really interesting if they went that in that direction.
Yeah, I think in Legends they were called Dark Jedi, but now I think they call them Fallen Jedi or just Dark Force users.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because again, the Star Wars universe, like the Star Trek universe is so big. Like we don't have to stick to. I'm one of those fans where I'm like, if we don't stick to like Jedi Sith Lords, that's cool. I think the universe is big enough that they can tell that kind of story.
for sure. Yeah. A good example of that would be Balin, I think his name was,
Yeah,
in
Balin
Ahsoka.
Skull. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then his apprentice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
So,
that's what makes Qui-Gon Jinn. Here I go again.
mhm,
That's what makes to me Qui-Gon Jinn really, really a fascinating character, is because he was a Jedi Master, but he didn't sit on the council,
yeah.
right? And that he potentially kind of, and Mace Windu to the similar effect, kind of blurred some of those lines,
Mhm.
right? Free,
Yeah,
more of a free thinking kind of deal.
for sure.
Not Mace Windu. He was very much Jedi Council, but he did have that. See, I think his like lightsaber is purple because he does have the some dark sidey kind of
Well, he was
feel.
willing to assassinate Palpatine. He's
Right,
too dangerous to be alive. Like
right,
that's
right,
to be kept alive.
right.
That's not. I don't know that is that's some a Jedi should do or think. A pure um, a by the books Jedi
Yeah,
should have arrested him or something.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I think to your point, yeah,
So, what do you think? I mean, since you've seen it, and
yeah, yeah. Well, so again, I don't think that this episode gave too many answers. It does give some evidence.
oh,
I really don't know. I think Chimere has been the obvious choice because
makes sense.
maybe not necessarily Star Wars, just storytelling in general. A lot of times they'll create this like unassuming, quirky, effete person who ends up being a disguise of sorts. And it's never very impressive, the reveal, because I don't know. I I know you're not a Lord of the Rings guy, but the thing is with Sauron, he he
Yeah. Okay.
walked amongst he walked amongst men in the like Silmarillion, like the first age stuff. Second age? I think it was oh man. I think it was the first age. Lord of the Rings is told in like
I
1,000 year
believe you.
blocks.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so the pre stuff, the forging of the rings, etc., is I think the first age. I can't remember now. But
Okay.
but at that point, Sauron walks amongst men, and it's a disguise, is the point.
Oh.
And
Okay.
and so and there's other examples. I think Harry Potter does it a lot, where a professor will be end up being the bad guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Oh
they're
yeah.
the
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
threatening. They're like the
Yeah.
least threatening teacher who ends up
Yeah.
being
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
the worst one.
For sure. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so Chimera is just weird because May May does have that like a bit of that like propping up of power. Like no, like she's um she has like almost like a value system around who should have power and who shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's like a very Sith thing. It's like
Yeah.
fascism basically.
For sure. For
And
sure.
so
Sure.
I mean she's not overboard with it, but the fact that she would be rubbing elbows with this dude is weird because he seems like he would instantly lose a fight, and yet he's there with her and seems to have some kind of power over her. And so you can't help but wonder if that power is of magic, some sort of magical influence that he has, and that if he is in fact kind of like influencing her with dark magic. And because like she does, I don't think she knows, because I think when they're in like the apothecary or whatever, I think they talk about the master. So if it is him, she doesn't know. And then they also do some sort of mind scanning of her, I think it was, and if I'm not mistaken, and they're like, yeah, she doesn't know the master's identity.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
I think Soul does that or something, and is
Yes.
like, I know that she doesn't know who the master is.
Okay.
So so there you go. It is some sort of dark magic that it has mind control over her. So but I think the whole point of that is to mislead us, because he's the last person you would
Sure.
expect of
Sure.
wielding this great power,
Sure.
because he seems such a weakling.
Yeah. Sure.
And so that part I'm not a huge fan of, because it's like it just seems like it's for the sake of misleading the audience. So it's like the last person you'd expect. So, but
Been there, done that kind of deal, or like, you know,
it's just kind of boring. You
yeah.
know,
Okay.
if he only needs to really interact with May. So who's he tricking? I mean, so they're saying these people are operating in the shadows, but is that really what it would take to operate in the shadows? Because he's not even like Palpatine was doing operating in the shadows, but he wasn't like Sheev Palpatine, the mask, wasn't a bad guy. He was pretending to do good things, and people liked him and they responded to him, and he was a leader. This Chimera dude is like sleazy,
Yeah.
and like he's you get the feeling that if he did have any power to wield, he would immediately do really bad things with it. Like
Right.
he's just a scumbag.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
so
Right.
I don't know, is that the best disguise? Like being a sleazy like drug dealer? Like if you're
Right.
trying
Right.
to hide that you're like the next Sith Lord, would you really risk um instigating like little minor things like dealing poison and stuff? Like it just doesn't, I don't know. I don't know if I buy it as anything other than it was designed to make us think that he's the last person who could be this all-powerful being.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's just kind of boring.
And that's why, and that's why I kind of think not, and that it is kind of a misdirection, and that there is somebody else that we have yet even to meet.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's what it is. I really do believe it's him, but I do hope it's something else.
Yeah.
And again, I stand by. There's something weird with May and Osha. I can't explain it. But I think there's going to be a reveal there too.
What specifically? Have you formed it in your head yet, or do you still need
I
to?
mean, like they're the same
They're the
person,
same.
because
Okay.
yeah, because Saul says, I watched her die. He watched May fall. he believes that she's dead. And we're not, thus far they haven't explained to us, well, if he saw that, then how is that not the truth?
Yeah.
And so that plants the seed. Well, then she is dead. And what we're seeing as May is not May. It's somehow it's Osha, or they swapped places or
Yeah.
something.
So you think
So
it's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of deal where she is
yeah,
the
yeah,
one
exactly.
character is one and the same.
Right. I don't necessarily think it, I just think there's going to be some flavor of that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I think the Sith Lord could easily be Anastasia, the mom, or it could be the Darth Maul lady,
Oh, interesting.
or it could be May, and then the one time we see May with the Sith Lord was just some sort of hallucination or something, or I don't know. But what I don't want to do is say, oh, I think it's Darth Plagueis, because I think
You
that
think everyone is Darth
yeah,
Plagueis.
exactly, exactly. So every time there's a new
Every
Star Wars
time it's
thing,
Darth Plagueis. Oh, it's got to be
yeah,
Darth Plagueis.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, hear us out, Star Wars creators, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau. Just come on, please. Can you just create the Darth Plagueis story and appease get it? And can we get this over with? And so that Gabe can have his moment
I,
with Darth
I can
Plagueis
die happy.
actually playing the mad villain like at the center of it all, and let's just get that over, please, 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 please.
So I
Can
can die
we have
happy.
that so he can, you know, so he can not ride off, but like at least be like, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yep. Seriously. I'm not alone though. I'm not alone.
I know you're not. I know you're not.
Yeah.
I know. I know. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you should see some of the theories. Some of the theories are
Oh,
that Plagueis was the first male born of that
I
coven, and that's
can't.
how we knew.
I
Or
There are too many corners of the interwebs in Star Wars
yeah.
fandom that I'm like, no, I'm not going there. No, there's too much. There's too much.
Yeah. There is too
No,
much.
no.
Yeah. There's way too much. And and then when I think back, because in this podcast we've been able to talk about Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Kenobi, or in both that every one of those shows, I've always had some flavor of there's going to be this big thing, and then it's
Yeah,
never that.
right.
And so the wise thing for me to do is internalize that and be like, it's just its
But
own thing. It doesn't have to connect.
have you considered though, like this is could be the one, right?
No, don't
Like,
mess with me, man.
it finally turns. The hand hits on this one.
Don't mess with me, man. Yeah. But see, that's what I always do though, right? Every one of those
Yeah.
shows I just listed, I'm always like,
I
oh,
mean,
this
except for
is
Andor, although Andor kind of, I mean, Andor doesn't it is a little bit different. Andor is a little
yeah.
different. We know, there are the elements in that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, Andor doesn't necessarily set up those puzzles that these other ones do. And that's
Yeah,
fine because it's so good on its own.
yeah,
It speaks to just how good that show is.
yeah. And see, that's why I think this also has that possibility of it's not a big bad. It is just, a couple or like a big bad in this, not in the large scale, but in a big sense to the story, but not overarching to the entire universe.
Yeah, the only exception could be when the like architect of the rebellion gives Andor the necklace with the crystal,
Right.
the speculation that it's a kyber crystal and maybe he's a former Jedi, like stuff like that is
Yeah.
always going to creep up.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it doesn't need it.
Yeah.
So,
And again,
yeah.
although the other thing too is, and I don't think we've ever touched on this, but like it could all be leading up to the acolyte, right? Like there could be a person.
Well,
I don't know.
I do think though the acolyte is the term like denotes that it is someone subservient to a master, I believe.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
And so, I
Does it
mean, I guess
does it have a
May
religious
is the
context to
acolyte.
it? I'm
Yeah,
sorry. It does.
yeah, it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, like May is the acolyte, basically. But I
Ah,
mean,
yes. Okay.
I guess to your point, the masked person who we know as the master could be the acolyte of some bigger.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah.
But at this point, though, halfway through this show, it would be so stupid, really, to be like, oh, there's this third character that we haven't even talked about.
I mean,
It would be pure fan
but
service.
the thing though,
And
wait, but the thing though is like, I mean, it's not like that hasn't happened in the Star Wars universe though, where they reveal the bad in like, you know, episode 9 of 10 or like 8 of 10.
mhm.
It's not like they've not done that before, and I'm not saying that there's a there's a Star Wars playbook or anything they have to go by, but
Well, people were not huge fans of Palpatine showing up in episode 9, basically out of nowhere.
yeah,
And
no, that was terrible.
even the movie itself didn't buy it.
No, that was
You
terrible.
know,
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac, or was it, what is his name? Oscar,
Yeah, Oscar Isaac. Yeah.
yeah, he says somehow Palpatine returned. Even the movie's like, we have no fucking clue.
Right, 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 right.
He just showed up. Okay,
Right.
just get over it.
Yeah.
So, and guess what? Everyone hated it. The movie
Yes.
did not do well
Yeah.
critically, commercially. Yeah.
So I just want I want to kind of it is so disappointing that there were rumors and it was an interesting one where Darth Vader was the most evil, right? You know, the most dark side at the beginning, and then he
Hmm.
starts to fall back to the light. And it would have been really interesting if the rumors were true that if Kylo Ren did the exact opposite, right? And that we find out, oh, Ben Solo, what was a Jedi or in the new school of Jedi or whatever, and then went in the other opposite direction. I think that would have been cool.
Yeah, from light to dark and
Yeah,
never coming back to light.
right. Exactly. I think that would have
Yeah,
been really, really interesting. It never happened, but I digress.
I hear you. Yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
hear you. But I mean, on that note, Luke brings his dad back from the dark side. Rey brings Kylo back from the dark side.
right.
And in that regard,
Ray?
I think, yeah,
Not his mom.
um, well, she's dead at that point.
No, but like we don't have to get into this, but I thought it was because he felt her death and was like, "Oh, this is kind of a turning point."
Maybe that was the turning
That was
point, but I think Rey is credited with bringing him
Oh, okay.
back.
Okay. 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 All right.
Yeah. But you're right though. I think that softened him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, and like as George Lucas says, it's like poetry, it rhymes. So
Yeah.
I do think that this Acolyte show is borrowing a lot of the established stuff. So I think we're meant to think that Osha is going to bring May back to the light side, and she could. And I think that would be in keeping with the Star Wars formula.
Even though you think they're the same.
Yeah, I'm saying
And so you think by like
one
killing
or the other.
May,
Oh,
it's
maybe, yeah.
just Osha.
Yeah, that could be it. That could be a way to have both for sure. Yeah.
Because that's the thing, right? That's how I play it in my mind. The death of Anakin Skywalker because he was consumed by Darth Vader.
And Yoda says, once down the Darth path you
Right,
follow,
exactly.
forever will
Exactly.
dominate
Right,
your
exactly.
destiny.
And so they're not the same person, even though it's the same.
Interesting. Yeah. Man, that would be deep. That would be really cool. That would be really cool. Hmm.
So, like, again, like it could be that Star Wars where it's like, where your theory that they're like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Osha's the one that kills May.
Right. How pissed are you going to be if the version of May that we see when we need her to be different than Osha is the same as the force projection in The Last Jedi that Luke
No,
does?
no, 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 don't go there. No, no,
It's
don't go there. No,
so
uh,
right at the beginning of
no.
the first episode when Osha is having a force vision that has May. May's
Yeah,
walking through the snow and
right,
she
right.
doesn't make
No,
footprints.
no.
Just like when Luke is a force projection,
Kill
he doesn't
me.
make footprints.
No, 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 please, no, no. Uh, it's just so many. I get, like, I get there has to be an expansion of like powers, right? Of the force powers, force
Yeah.
healing, whatever, all that kind of stuff. There are so to me, there are just lines that I'm like, no, 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 don't, no. Like, Leia surviving deep.
Yeah.
No, no, no. I think they're. I very much like a little box, and like you can move rocks and ships and things, but no, no.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Well, anything else with Star Wars?
No, but I don't know. I just wanted to. Donald Sutherland passed away today.
Yep.
Um, I don't think. Yeah, was he in any of
Um,
the?
the red-haired dude from the sequel trilogy is he's a Sutherland, right? Isn't his last name Sutherland?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Because I
yeah,
know Kiefer Sutherland was Donald's son. I'm a
yeah,
huge
yeah,
Kiefer Sutherland fan. He's awesome.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know if he was ever
Okay, okay,
in Star Wars.
right. I don't think he was either,
Yeah. For a
but
second, I was like, was he in Kenobi as something? But
no,
you
I
know,
don't
because
think so.
that show had Jack Black and Lizzo, and there was a lot of there's Christopher Lloyd was in that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
show.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. It was Doc Brown.
yeah. That might have
But yeah.
even been this Ahsoka. I don't remember now.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. It was Ahsoka. It was Ahsoka. It was Ahsoka.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
boy.
but that reminds me though. I see. I can't remember if it was Kenobi or Ahsoka. Do you remember there
Oh
was
boy.
a masked dark, like a Kylo Ren type figure in
Oh,
one of those shows. I think it was Ahsoka.
really?
They basically looked like the Master, very Knights of Ren,
Oh.
and it was one of those things where every week it was speculating who's the Sith, and then it ended up being like some sort of like Force ghost or something, and they were killed very unceremoniously. They were like, I don't know if it was Ahsoka that killed them, like stabbed him with the lightsaber, and then they just kind of like imploded. They were done, and it never was explained, or
Oh, I don't know.
or or the explanation was very unsatisfying. But
Yeah,
but
I
that's
don't
the
remember.
that's the perfect example of getting wrapped up in the trying to guess who it
Right,
is thing.
exactly. Yeah,
And
exactly.
then these shows have a history of not
Yes, they do.
caring.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
true. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And you're
yeah,
like, what? Really? That was nothing.
exactly.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't remember if that was a so. I want to say it's Kenobi.
Just the thing is with Kenobi, it had all his Inquisitors, So maybe it was the Inquisitor's apprentice or something. Maybe it was Kenobi. So maybe that's what it was.
It wasn't the former the Jedi, the former Jedi.
No,
No, not no. Okay.
no, it was literally.
Oh, yeah, I think it's Kenobi, and I think we talked about it actually.
Oh, I'm sure we
That
did.
there
Yeah,
were like the three like there were a couple of Knights of Ren kind of looking.
yeah. In
I don't know,
addition to the
three or one,
Inquisitor.
or I don't remember, but like yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, and he just
Yeah,
chops them down like they were
right.
nothing.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, never mind,
Yeah,
because
I do
because once.
remember saying like I do remember us talking about like were those like the precursors to the Knights of Ren,
Mhm.
and then we just never got an explanation because they were.
Well, but when you have an ominous figure in a mask, you assume they're wearing a mask to hide their identity.
Yeah,
So so now you're just prompted to play the guess the identity game,
right, exactly.
and then it ends up being nothing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm very cautious this go around. I'm not gonna go nuts. I'm not gonna say
Could be
it's
Plagueis.
Palpatine. Yeah, it's Palpatine or it's Plagueis or it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Could be
So
Snow.
it could be Snow.
Oh no, no, no. Okay, yeah, no. Please no. I will catch
Yeah.
up and by the next time we visit the captain's quarters again.
We'll talk about both episodes.
Yeah.
We'll talk about 4 and 5,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Anything else to Star Wars?
Uh no, you're not that I can think of. Do you have
Okay.
is there anything on
No.
socials, news?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, and
I mean,
then
you're always more plugged into that's the Star Wars stuff.
yeah. Yeah. Well, for me though, the big thing for my week is a new Zelda game was announced. And so,
Oh boy. Oh
yeah,
boy.
my
Oh
world
boy.
my world is on fire right now.
Oh boy. What to where? Online
Yeah.
to
It'll be on the Switch.
the Switch? Okay.
Yeah. And so this time tables are turned a bit. So this time you play as Zelda trying to save Link. And so, yeah,
Oh, cool. Okay.
yeah,
So can I just say, like, that's
yeah.
what I always thought it should have been in the first place.
Okay.
Like, I always thought like the Robin Hood character Link
Hmm. Hmm.
was like that was Zelda, but no,
Yeah,
you're actually trying to save her or free
right.
her, whatever the
Hmm.
case may be. And I'm
Yeah,
like, isn't that? But it's called Zelda. Shouldn't you be
yeah,
Zelda?
yeah. No, the answer is very unsatisfying. When they were making the game back in 1985 or whatever, they they literally were like, we think it would be cool if it was The Legend of something. They just thought it sounded cool. And then they chose F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife's name
Oh,
because they just liked her. And that was it. That was literally the extent of it.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And then, and
that
then,
is kind of a letdown. I'm sorry, but that
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then in
Then
the
it turns
sequel,
into, but then it like does this, flip thing, and it becomes this huge.
yeah. Well, so the sequel tried to make up for that, and it created this whole backstory where the royal family had the Triforce, and it's what gave them their power, and it's what enabled Hyrule to prosper. And then the king is dying, and he knows that the Triforce has to pass on to someone virtuous.
Mhm.
And his son, the prince, was like a shithead, and so he
Well
was
put.
the king knew that he couldn't give the Triforce to
What
his
a
son.
dickhead.
Yeah, so instead he hid the Triforce away, and the son, in his rage, ends up he like enlists this magician who puts a spell on Zelda. So Zelda goes to sleep. She's basically Sleeping Beauty,
Right.
and the prince ends up repenting, and then like in her honor proclaims that all subsequent princesses will be named Zelda, and that's and that
Interesting.
initially that's how they retconned the name to say that um, that is the Legend of
The
Zelda. That is,
legend. Okay, I got
yeah,
you. I
yeah,
understand. I got you. So we're
because
talking
those,
about Zelda 8, 9,
yeah,
10, 11, 12, 14.
yeah, we're referring back, but it gets more complicated. It's just
Like,
also
I
complicated.
mean, that's the other thing too. Like, come on, man. Like, really? Like, just some punk wealthy kid that didn't get his way. Oh,
Yeah, hmm, yeah, but anybody who knows Zelda will know that even though that was the intent of those who
okay,
made the sequel to the first Zelda,
okay. So there was no inkling amongst the fandom that there was going to be this new game coming out. When's it supposed slated to come out?
September 26th, I believe.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So there's a little bit of time
yeah.
to leave you guys chomping at the bits,
Oh
straining
yeah.
at the leash.
I'm already writing the script for my next theory video. I hope to have
Okay,
it out this weekend, but
okay.
I'm very slow. I'm it's difficult not doing it full time. The guys who actually succeed at it, it literally is their full-time job.
Yeah, it's their
So
full-time job. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
yeah,
they,
so
create content constantly.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah.
So do you are I mean, are there gonna be I mean, there obviously gonna be like books and journals and
Yeah.
manuals that come out
So
before that? No?
I mean, I don't know. Do you know what I mean when I say 3D versus 2D Zelda?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a 2D Zelda. It's the
Oh, so it
it's the
harkens back
classic
to the original
top-down.
days. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So anytime there's a 2D Zelda, it's always way lighter in the lore and the whatever, much less dialogue, much less story, much
Right,
less
right, 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 right,
cutscenes,
right, right, right,
much
right.
less to go through, and it doesn't really necessitate a lot of extra stuff. I mean, there's stuff
Okay,
there to
got it.
talk
I
about,
got it. I got it. That
but
sucks. That kind of sucks to me. Like
yeah.
you're finally Zelda and it's a 2D game. Oh, boo.
Yeah.
That sucks. That kind of sucks.
Yeah. 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 It looks great though. It looks beautiful. The art style of it is amongst my favorite of all the different Zelda
Oh,
styles.
even
Yeah.
in the 2D version. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, they call it like chibi, I think, but it's just very colorful. It's very Nintendo. I love it a lot. It looks great. So yeah.
I would, I, that, that's not surprising.
Yeah.
I think it would have hit harder where you're like, not
Yeah.
that excited for it. It
Yeah.
doesn't look great.
So I apologize come late September when that's all I can talk about. So
I welcome. I know it's a huge thing for you, so I'm like, that's cool.
anyway,
September of 2026. So, oh yeah, oh boy, buckle up.
no, no, dude, September 26, 2024. So in like 100 days.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so when you said September 26, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Sorry. That was
oh
confusing. Yeah.
no. I was like, oh boy, we are gonna
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
year and a half.
No, no, 100
Oh,
days.
okay. So it's
Yeah.
only a couple months then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hence why I thought there would be like journals and books and stuff
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a year and a half from now or
hmm
2 years from now.
Yeah. It's all good, man.
Okay.
But it's a great time to be a nerd, though. I mean,
So
we've got
like
a Star
2
Wars
months.
show.
Okay.
Yeah. Got a new Star Wars show.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings TV show will have a new season later on this
Really?
summer.
Okay, cool.
Um, House of the Dragon is currently going. I started watching that. Game of Thrones
Yes.
spinoff.
Yes,
So
yes.
far, so far that is excellent.
Picked up on that one.
Yeah, it's just a great time to be a nerd. A new Zelda
Cool.
game, a new Zelda book is coming out, talking about Tears of the Kingdom
Oh
later this
boy.
year.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. I can't wait till you go through it line by line, deciphering everything like what
I'm
they meant
literally
when
gonna
they
have to
said.
because the first print of it will be in Japanese, so I'll have to use Google Lens and go through it and translate every single line. And it's like 500 pages.
You
So,
can't wait
dude, it'll be like a year before it comes out in English.
because the thing about like if you do it in Japanese
Mm,
with like anything, right?
yeah,
My favorite example being the Bible, right?
yeah.
I'm not going to go there. The the language that it's written originally will not always translate so
Oh,
cleanly to
yeah,
English
I
or
know.
to another language whatsoever.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I'll go to the Zelda Japanese website, the official Nintendo one, and
Uh-huh.
Chrome will translate it. And even though it gets the gist right, some of
Right.
the stuff is clearly wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, it doesn't pick up on the nuances.
right,
So
exactly.
it'll do a literal translation where the
Right,
nuance
exactly.
would have, yeah,
Right, exactly.
yeah. So,
Because like written is totally different from speaking, and yeah, there's context and
yeah,
stuff, and there's a rhythm, a pacing, meaning
yeah.
behind, two
Well,
peaches, but it really doesn't mean two peaches.
I'll probably be more obnoxious when the book comes out. So I apologize in advance for that. But anyway, hey,
Our
you know what?
souls are prepared.
Good. My laptop's going to die. So let's wrap
Okay.
it up.
Yep.
Everybody on YouTube, thanks for watching. Everyone listening, please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere where you get podcasts. Follow us on X. Just search the Captain's Quarters podcast. Hopefully, we pop up. And until next time, live long and prosper. We thank you so much.
And may the Schwartz be with you.
Oh, wait, hold on. I have to say, did you see they
Oh,
announced Spaceballs 2
no, no, they can't. No,
with
no, no. That's not real.
with
That's not
Josh
real.
Gad?
Huh?
Josh Gad. Josh Gad is creating it, I think.
I to not have Mr. John Candy in it
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
just aberrant to me.
I hope they bring Rick Moranis back from the dead, wherever he is right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, and I know Mel Brooks is still alive and kicking, so
I think he's I think I read that he's part of it. He's part of the
Oh,
development of it.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. But yeah, no, to not have Barf, yeah,
Part.
to to not have Dewey Oxenberg, to not have Dewey Oxenberger, to not have uh um um Bud Boomer,
Yeah.
not the same.
Anyway, I'm
Yeah,
sure you'll see it in theater.
maybe, maybe.
Maybe. All right. Anyway, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Till next time. And to you, Jason, thank you.
Take care, buddy. I'll talk to you.